What's your take on the Dak Prescott extension story that Stephen Jones has brought back up for us? Do you think we could have a Dak extension this offseason?
Well, I think it was from a philosophical point of view. He was saying it's something they could look at. He didn't say it was going to happen. He didn't, it was nothing like that. It was, he's going to be our quarterback for 10 years. And, when they're making that kind of money, it's something you have to look at because they do have some cap issues, some cap challenges. And that's one way to get it done. He didn't say it was going to happen, but, there's no question that he and Jerry doubled down, believe in Dak Prescott. He's going to be our quarterback for him here on out, and certainly for the foreseeable future. And everything is built around that.
You feel like Clarence, and by the way, if you have to, you can drive over to New Orleans, get out of the airport, more flights out of that New Orleans airport.
Funny, brothers, that's what we did. I flew into New Orleans because I couldn't get into Mobile because, the flights were too expensive, and I flew into New Orleans and drove, and that's where my flights are canceled out of New Orleans back to Dallas. It's because of the weather in Dallas.
Okay, are you in New Orleans right now then?
No, I'm still in Mobile. I'm going to drive to New Orleans tonight and probably hang out somewhere. I think they got a couple of places you can smoke a cigar and have a drink.
Oh no, they have a few.
I don't know what they call those places, but you want to spend the night there.
Yeah. By the way, chill too. Pensacola is another way to go too. Head away from the weather. If you go east and then come back all the way west is what you can do. You got. I
appreciate it.
All right, man. Hey, when you heard the whole thing about Mike McCarthy calling plays, Kellen Moore leaving, what ran through your mind?
A thing that's been running through my mind after the last few days, is for a while now. For a guy who's won as much as he has, and for a guy who has so much success as he has, and been around so many quarterbacks he's had, no one respects Mike McCarthy as a play caller, offensive mind. I was talking to people at the combine, and different agents said, that's the worst they can do. And, obviously guys that are in bed with McCarthy think he's a great play caller, but it's just funny that people have such lack of respect for what he did and has done as an offensive play caller. So it's interesting that the Cowboys themselves are doubling down on Mike McCarthy as a play caller and saying this is the way for us to take the next step. Mike is going to run the offense, run his West Coast offense, certainly with some of the stuff that they like, from what they've done the past 2 years. But this is the way to go. This is going to get us over the hump, and we're going to go down with Mike McCarthy.
What do you think Mike wants to change?
Stephen was very honest about it. He said that he and Kellen Moore didn't jive philosophically, and how they want to do things. And certainly, I'm sure, late game situations, play calling situations, certainly, whether we like those sticks or stop routes, that whatever that Kellen Moore has in his arsenal, there's some things philosophically that they didn't jive with. And they're siding with Mike, and they want to take the next step with Mike, But again, Stephen Jones, acknowledged that there were philosophical differences with Mike and Kellen Moore.
Chill, they also talked about Dak in the future with Dak. Are you expecting an extension this offseason, or what's going on? Do you believe in Dak, I should say, really, after what we saw from the playoffs?
See, I get this wrapped that I'm a Dak apologist, and that's not necessarily the case. I don't think it's Jalen Hurts or Brock Purdy was going to take a team to the Super Bowl, right? And sure. Jalen Hurts did it. Based on body of work, Dak has been a better quarterback than both. Am I correct?
Yeah,
I think so. Can we agree on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Much better body of work.
Able to take it. So one of those guys can take a team to the Super Bowl. That means thus that Dak can take a team to the Super Bowl.
Right.
I believe that Dak is good enough to take a team to the Super Bowl. Is he Aaron Rodgers? Is he Patrick Mahomes? No. He's not that guy. I don't think he's a guy who can elevate a team with lesser parts around him. But I think with the right situation, with the right parts around him, yes, Dak can take a team to the Super Bowl. And so, I guess it gets crossways when you throw in the money. Well, he gets paid like, Patrick Mahomes. He should play like Patrick Mahomes. He gets paid like what the department market is. I don't think anybody, when he got paid, thought he was going to turn into Patrick Mahomes. Yeah. The biggest problem the Cowboys made this year was they said, we're paying you $40-something million, so you have to be a franchise quarterback, uplift lesser parts of the team. They went into this season with a lesser roster offensively than they did last year, and they expected Dak to uplift that roster. That's not a formula for success with Dak Prescott as your quarterback.
Yeah, the pressure's got to be on the front office to build as good of a team as what the Eagles and 49ers have around their quarterbacks, right?
Yeah, and we talked about Jerry Stevens, and I said they will go after, they talked about the 49ers and what the Rams have done and how they, committed a lot of resources to making a splash and bringing in guys, and it's something they will consider doing and will do. And instead Stephen Jones and Jerry pointed out, we went after Odell Beckham, and there's a chance they will go after Odell Beckham again. They said they're not scared to go after players, but they just don't want to compromise themselves for the future. So it's a balancing act. But I do think because of the success of what has happened the past couple of years, they'd be more inclined to go after something this year than they have in past years.
What about the Zeke situation as well? I mean, they got a lot of money tied in on Zeke. I know they said they got to look at the business aspect of that as well, but the production not quite meeting certainly the expectation there of what we've seen from Zeke in the past.
Well, they're not going to go on the record and say we don't want Zeke back, and they're not going to go on record and trash what Zeke has done and the type of player he is, and so they said all the right things, and theoretically, yes, they want Zeke back. How do you make that work financially with what you have to do with Tony Pollard and what you need to do for the future of this football team? I don't know if there's any number that you can give Zeke that makes it okay for him to come back. Because, there's a certain point where he's not going to take a pay cut down to $2 million, right? Sure. Maybe from a pride standpoint. And certainly cutting him to 7 or 6, I don't know if that's enough, if that's what you want to invest in that position, especially when you possibly are going to have to give Tony Pollard the franchise tag, which is $10 million. So I don't know how you make that work financially, especially when there's too many other options you could have in the draft with tagging Tony and drafting one of these young stars, whether it's first, second, third rounder. They're running backs that can come and help you win, or you can draft early and have control of them for 3 or 4 years and really maybe better for you for the future. So, yeah, they said the right things about Zeke. They're going to talk to him. They like him. They want to bring him back. But, they have to talk business. And when business becomes on the table, I think that's where, we'll see a meeting of the mind that this may not work for the Cowboys going forward.
Yeah, Clarence, I can't get anybody to take your Texas running back there, Bijan Robinson. I can't get anybody here to go with me on this one.
I'm getting.
I've talked about that. Everybody talks about the running back, and you don't draft the running back.
Sure.
Maybe you don't draft the running back top 5, but 26.
Yeah,
and
no, that kid can play. That kid can play.
And you control him for 5 years in a rookie contract. Yeah. Why wouldn't you do that?
I'm with you on that. But I know you're a Longhorn as my son, so I appreciate that about you. Well, hey, real quick though on this, and I know we all love Bijan Robinson, but I want to ask you this question: did Jerry admit that they messed up on the Cooper thing today? How did I read that the wrong way with that?
He refused to admit it. He basically said that they used that Cooper $20 million in other places.
Okay.
He admitted that they expected too much or made a mistake or whatever else. They didn't get what they hoped to get out of Tolbert. He admitted that they did not get what they hoped to get out of Gallup. But he doubled down on the money aspect of it because he said, I know what you're getting at here. And we spent that $20 million. We used that $20 million
on 3 different guys. Yeah.
On other guys.
Right.
So that's what he focused on. But he did admit that they made a mistake at receiver. He did admit that they did not improve their receiver position. He did admit that was one of the things that held this team back. Yes.
Clarence Hill, Star Telegram here with you. Are they looking at Pollard as a must-keep guy?
I think, yeah, of course. You have to. My question is, and Brothers can answer the question as well, it's one thing of paying Dak a quarterback coming off ankle surgery, another thing of paying him running back. Yeah. Where everything about his whole game is his legs, his juice of legs. You need to make sure Tony Pollard is still springy, fast, 4-3 Tony Pollard again. But yeah, they love what Tony Pollard did with this offense. Jerry is even ready to admit that that San Francisco game changed when Tony Pollard got hurt. So he means that much to this offense and what they're trying to do. So yeah, they want him back. Just a matter of how much. The franchise tag. I would do a 1-year deal. It'd be 1 year from here on out for Tony Pollard for me. And just talking to an agent last night, there's no way Tony Pollard turns down the franchise tag. From a 4th-round pick, you get $10 million guaranteed. You're not turning that down and hold out for more money.
Well, going back to receiver, how high do you think receiver is going to be on their priority list? And were you surprised to hear about Michael Gallup having another surgery already?
Well, yeah, it was a cleanup surgery, and certainly it's something that they have. Tyron Smith had one, and this offseason as well. So the surgery is not with Gallup is not the issue. The issue is what is Gallup? What type of player is? I mean, it was always a lie when they trotted out that we got 3 number 1 receivers. He was never of the CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper ilk. Even back then, when everybody tried to make him out to be as good as those guys. We love Michael Gallup. We love him as a person. We love him as a player. We love the guy. But what are you getting at Michael? What type of player he is? That's what they must decide. But, yes, they're going to go out the receiver in the draft for free agency or both. I mean, that's no question about that. They openly talked about going back after Odell Beckham again. That's certainly something when I talked to Jerry about needs and offseason needs in the draft, he brought up wide receiver, tight end, offensive line, in those positions as things are big needs on offense.
Do you think Odell Beckham Jr. is still that good?
Oh, I think he is, yes. I mean, you saw him at a Super Bowl. He was on pace to be an MVP player. And everybody you talk to about him, he's a hard worker. And if he is healthy again, he can be an impact player for sure. He certainly can be an upgrade of what the Cowboys ran out there to receiver behind CeeDee Lamb last year.
Yeah, that's for sure.
That's true.
I don't know. I guess I just looked at it as, if he's finishing the season with us and it's not that much of a long-term financial commitment, we want Odell, but with his injury history, like saddling up and doing like a full contract for the future, I don't know if that kind of jives with how the Cowboys are looking at availability last offseason. It seems like they were drawing a pretty clear line on that.
Well, yeah, it's certainly them talking to him and pursuing him and them signing to a deal are 2 totally different things. Because I know Odell, I know his people, he wants to maximize his earnings. So if they don't get on the same page financially, then it won't happen for sure. It's going to have to be a deal that the Cowboys are acceptable to. But again, he's going to have other suitors. So we'll see how this breaks down. But yeah, they want Odell. They would like to bring him, but they're just not going to give him Amari Cooper money, for example, to bring him here.
Chill, I know you're down there in the middle of all that Senior Bowl stuff. What's the craziest Cowboy rumor you've heard?
I really have not. We sat in the lobby and waited for damn Jerry last night in this snowstorm. You know how it is when you sit there and wait. I really haven't. I really haven't dug into any major rumors on this team and what they're going to do. We're just getting started here. I've talked to, just talking to agents, talked to Tony's agent, certainly talked to Leighton Vander Esch's agent and some other guys' agents just to get a read on what they want to do. The interesting thing, I don't know if you guys heard Jerry talk earlier today, but they believe Tyron Smith and Jason Peters will come back.
Yeah.
Next year and to go with this offensive line and with Tyler Smith, and certainly that means that you got to wonder how long those guys can hold up. But does it mean you let Connor McGovern walk if you kick Tyler back inside? You got Terrence Steele coming back and those 2 old guys, the man left tackle.
Yeah, what's the starting lineup look like?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but Jerry said he likes the offensive line. I mean, that's one of the things he talked about. He likes their options at the offensive line going into next year with those 2 guys coming back better than he has in any offensive line he's had over the last several years.
Hey, Clarence, real quick, in the last minute or so, the kicking situation, have they given up on Brett Maher here?
Well, we asked him about Brett Maher. He said they're starting over, and it's not an indictment of Maher, but he's a free agent. So, I mean, they have to re-sign him. They're going to look at other guys as well. But, it's not like he's locked in the next year. But, the thing about it is, and we all love Brett Maher. We've seen him, but we've also seen him fall off a cliff before. Yeah. He was great in 2018. He fell off a cliff in 2019. Okay? So it was great this year, and then fell off a cliff at the end of this season. With so much on the line, can you bank your team on Brett Maher being Brett Maher or him falling off a cliff again? Jason Garrett stuck with him too long in 2019.
Hey, Bijan gets all the love, but you got Roschon Johnson out there at the Senior Bowl as well. That cat can run it pretty well. Any buzz around him?
Actually, he got hurt yesterday. He broke a hand in practice the first day of practice today, so I don't think he's going to do anything else the rest of it. Yeah, he's a nice back. He's a nice change of pace back. He's not Bijan. If you look at the running backs, you got to look at that guy at Alabama.
Oh, yeah.
You're not going to go with Bijan in the first round because he's Alabama. certainly is an option in the second round for the Cowboys, but they do need help. They need to draft a running back in the first 3 rounds this year, especially if they move on from Zeke. And I said that last week. When you get rid of Skip Pete, you're moving on from Zeke. I mean, that's Skip's boy. Okay, Skip and Zeke's agent have a tight relationship. That's all family. One reason why Skip is here is because of the relationship with Zeke. You move on from Zeke, that tells me you're thinking about moving. I mean, you move on from Skip Pete, that tells me you're moving on from Zeke.